I'm more focused on what's making my heart happy than just that 30-minute, that dopamine rush. The first time I received 2 lipsticks at home in PR, I was bowled over. I was like, someone's sharing lipsticks with me because I can write a blog post about it. This is cool.
Sense of pride or sense of happiness that, you are getting the recognition for the kind of work that you love to do. While at the same time, when does one get carried away and when does it become toxic or not so healthy?
I had a few things that happened in my personal life that led me to go to therapy a few years ago. And I needed to seek professional help because I was driving myself nuts and I started getting panic attacks. Really, really, really bad panic attack. When I lost my closest circle of friends, I will not get emotional while having this conversation. This should be a first. I talk to myself a lot and reason with myself as to why something's happening around me or why someone is behaving a different way or why I'm behaving differently also for that matter. We're a country of different shades of brown, but we've been obsessed with fairness for so long. I'm extremely aware of the fact that this is a wave. Nobody is popular forever.
Hi everyone, welcome to Yellow Door Talks. I am Sonam Mahajan, a mindfulness teacher and life coach. And today I'm in conversation with Aanam Chashmawala, who is the founder and director of What, When, Where, a content platform across mediums like YouTube, Instagram, and a blog as well. In the past almost a decade, she's created content around beauty, lifestyle, fashion, and travel. With her expertise in content creation, she's also a brand consultant. She's also a social entrepreneur with 100% of the proceeds of sales from her What, When, Where wardrobe going to charities in the space of education and health. Aanam has previously featured on TV shows on MTV, on NDTV Good Times, as well as been a VJ with Channel V. I'm really excited to be speaking with her today on mental health, so come join us. Hi Aanam, it's wonderful to have you in conversation on Yellow Door Talks. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I've heard you so many times on Clubhouse. It feels so good to get to see you. I almost feel like in person for the first time, and I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Same here. Aanam, I think, I don't follow fashion too much, but I absolutely love how you do what you do. I think that's something that's really struck me. And of course, you've literally seen the social media space come to life, to grow, evolve in the last decade. And I really appreciate how you've brought the real girl lens to all that you do. You've also been very vocal about the importance of mental health, the challenges being a public figure, someone who has that influence over a large number of people. You've been active in speaking about self-care, about life, about relationships, and so much more. Thank you, firstly, for doing that in the space that you're in. But today, if we could, Aanam, it would be great to talk about mental health. It's such a big topic, and I know you talk about the importance of it as well. To begin this dialogue, if we could talk about your own personal and professional journey in the last decade, the growth trajectory over the past years, being in the industry, how have you seen your mental health being impacted, overall well-being as well?
From a personal point of view, even leaving aside the professional one, so much has happened for me over the last decade. I've had a heartbreak, not just like heartbreak wise. I lost so many of my close friends. I met my husband, who was my client at the time. I, landed up getting engaged to him and married, and we've been together for 7 years now. While all of this was happening, I was working very hard on building the career that I have today, which I feel I'm so blessed and have so much gratitude in my heart for. And it's just been, and of course, there are so many other, tertiary aspects of our life that consume us every now and then that may seem very at a distance. But I think if there's anything in particular, I know for sure I can point out over the last decade is that I've become a lot more aware. I've always been a very self-aware person, but I'm more aware of other people and the energies that they bring in, or I'm able to pick up. I'm able to pick up when someone's pretending to be happy and not really happy. I feel like it's been a journey of, I've always been an extrovert growing up. it's been a journey of becoming this ambivert that I now am, where I'm more focused on what's making my heart happy than just that 30-minute, that dopamine rush of, oh, this makes me happy. I'm actually focusing more on things that make my inner self more happy. So for me, that is the biggest change, uh, just holistically speaking, that I've seen in myself over the last decade, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot that, you kind of had to process, go through. And like you described, I think it's the entire 20s, right? And so much tends to happen in that decade, right? In terms of love, relationships, and work, profession, we're all building in that building
Yeah.
phase. How did you, talk to me about the challenges early on, perhaps, and over the course of the years? How did you, work through the different challenges of being out there as a public figure, as an influencer? We hear a lot about what it takes, whether it's in terms of people's love, people's dislikes, hate, how do you kind of, and then that's just one part of it, right? What are the different challenges that have come up for you? If you could talk about that, for the benefit of perhaps somebody who's on the path like you perhaps have been on. Yeah.
I started my blog when I was 19. I'm 29 now. It'll be 10 years to my blog this December. And I didn't even know I was becoming a public figure when I was becoming a public figure, if you know what I mean. Like, this isn't like signing up for a movie where you sign up and you're like, oh, this is going to be my debut. This was a college girl sitting there sharing thoughts on where to shop from and how to style something in different ways, because I grew up in a retail family and I thought I had a little bit of a flair of being able to find the nicest finds. Um, and I didn't realize it was the first time somebody walked up to me for a selfie was when I was at some sort of a college fair, or was it a fair just after college had gotten over? And I was like, this is weird. Like, I'm happy. I'm not going to deny it. This is great. But wow, this is an alien feeling. Um, I don't think a lot of prepared for. See, today when influencers get into this space professionally, they know what to expect. They know that there are perks. They know that you can get paid for this. You know that you can get brand trips and sponsorships of X, Y, and Z category. I'm talking about 10 years ago, when the first time I received 2 lipsticks at home in PR, I was bowled over. I was like, someone's sharing lipsticks with me because I can write a blog post about it. This is cool. Like, okay, like, it was a different world altogether. And what seems so normal now was not the case back then. Um, I think I tried my best to learn from looking at what a lot of people were doing internationally from a work point of view. From a personal point of view, I had no benchmarks because I didn't know any other bloggers personally. The only blogger I knew of at the time was Miss Malini, who's someone I've looked up to from that time till date. And I'm so happy to be able to say, hey, she's someone I can call for advice now. So it's just one of those things where you roll with the punches and you make mistakes and you kind of maneuver your way around it. I guess what I wasn't prepared for was that a lot of the people in my personal life, their roles would change in my life. I feel like that I wasn't completely expecting, because in your 20s you think that the friends you've had are your friends who will kind of be around, and that entire phase really messed me up mental health wise. That was not a fun part of my 20s. But like I said, I believe in rolling with the punches and seeing how you can make any situation better. That's what I'm always striving for.
Yeah, and it must have been difficult, like you described. There isn't a set pattern of what one could have expected back then, and especially when you look at it from a business lens. I think just that sense of certainty, to some extent, knowing what outcome one can expect when one creates content is a lot more now. So of course, yeah, kind of working through that uncertainty, perhaps you did, just figuring out different ways of perhaps even generating revenue through what you do. And this is interesting that you bring up relationships, right, and the dynamics around that changing and transforming, and this is happening alongside you transforming and changing as well. And I can only imagine that this is a very natural, organic unfolding of things. uh, because things have got to change, right? People around you are changing, you are evolving. How did you make sense of that? Was it easy letting go? Was it easy? And I don't know if it was, kind of finding your own space. Was friendships more around the work that you did? And I'm sure there was a lot of work happening as well, right? So in terms of hours spent outside of work, what was that like?
It's funny you mentioned hours spent outside work. I was someone who had a brilliant work-life balance, which obviously in the last couple of years is completely gone cuckoo, and I don't have that anymore. But how did I make sense of it? I didn't. I had one huge heartbreak before I met my husband. And I thought that was bad. I was like, oh, so this is what people write poetry about. Like, I get it now. But I think it was when I lost like my closest circle of friends. I will not get emotional while having this conversation. This should be a first. I think it was when I realized, and it wasn't because of my work. I don't want to make it sound like those things were only changing because of my work or anything. Everyone has things going on in their lives. In your 20s, you're
Absolutely.
most evolving.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just because of me and my work. I think everyone just got thrown off into different phases of their lives really soon. So I'll share a small instance with you, which not a lot of people might be able to resonate with. But I remember after I graduated, I've been working since I was 15. I did 14 internships in my first 4 years of college and in my first 3 years of college. And my last 2 years of college, I just did internships. I just did freelance gigs and pick up as many projects as I could, because I was like, I'm done with my 14 internships. And I think that, now I just want to do freelance work kind of a thing. I remember after I graduated from school, from college, I remember after I graduated, after my degree college, it was a weekend, and I remember, posting on our friends group. I think we had BBM at the time, and saying, "What's everyone going to do this Friday?" Yada yada yada. Everyone had plans with their office friends, and I didn't have any office friends because I didn't have office. I was already, I was in my fifth time. And I was like, okay. And then this happened once, and then this happened twice. And then it kind of became a consistent part of my life. And that started, it obviously it messes with you sometimes, because you're like, hey, this is my main friend group. And now a lot of people have office friends, and you don't know where to go at that time. So you kind of go looking to make new friends. So that's what I mean. Everyone's evolving so like together at the same time, not at the same pace, and definitely not in the same direction. I don't think I could have done anything differently. I did my best. I know that for sure. And I think that uh, feeling came in maybe as recently as just 2 or 3 years ago, that, you know what, I've been doing my best. Um, and that, it's that different type wala heartbreak where you realize, okay, you know what, I need to let go. You can't be the only person who is focusing all of my sane mental health moments into these things, and I need to pull back.
Yeah.
I think everybody goes through that in their 20s in different ways.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to talk to yourself. I sound like a crazy person, but I talk to myself a lot and reason with myself as to why something's happening around me, or why someone is behaving a different way, or why I'm behaving differently also, for that matter.
Yeah.
So acknowledging things to myself is something that has worked for me.
Awesome. And talk to me about, the transition from not being known to being known. How did that play out, to the ego? How did you navigate that, right? There's a point, I'm sure there's that sense of pride or sense of happiness that, you are getting the recognition for the kind of work that you love to do. While at the same time, when does one get carried away, and when does it become toxic or not so healthy? What's been your relationship to fame or popularity, whatever one may call it?
See, I've always been an extrovert. Even growing up in school, I was always doing dance competitions and debate. I was always on the debate team, and I was part of several beauty pageants in college. So I don't think being the person that people, it sounds so pompous to say, but being the person that people liked or could get along easily with, let me just put it like that, that wasn't a strange feeling to me. I grew up being an extremely extroverted, child, teenager. It's in my late 20s that I've realized I'm not as extroverted as I used to be. There's definitely a little dimming that's happened on that front. But I don't think I ever let it get to my head, because I'm extremely, extremely aware of the fact that this is a wave. Nobody is popular forever. There are 10,000 other people more popular than me. And popularity goes like that. You have one wrong move and you're off the charts, you're off the radar. People want you to be out of sight and out of mind. So I'm not someone that it's not the popularity that has kept me hooked to this job for 10 years. That's not the hook. The hook for me to do what I do is my passion for it. The fact that I genuinely feel like I have this online family of sorts where they know what I do, and I know so many of them also, which feels fantastic. Like, I can name 10 followers and tell you where they live and who their spouses are or what their professions are, just like that. I do this thing where I call my followers once in a while as a series on my channel, where I like to call them and talk to them and kind of get to know them. So I popularity is a, by the way, perk of what I do. It doesn't drive me. So I guess because of that, it's never really got into my head.
Yeah. So you've had the awareness that one needs in being able to navigate it, because it is and I can imagine that this requires conscious effort, conscious knowing of the fact that you don't want to be carried away with that popularity, because again, it feels good, just with human nature, we all like being liked. So it's not something that we would run away from. But I think just with the awareness and the consciousness that it is what it is, and not to get too carried away with that, and knowing why you're doing what you're doing. But I think that does require a lot of clarity and self-awareness. Is there anything that you were consciously doing to enable that self-awareness? Talk to me about that side of things.
I don't belong to any clique in the influencer industry. I think that definitely helps me, because I'm not looking for hyped people in my life. I'm not looking at making relationships that are surrounded by um, how many followers someone else has and how much we can promote one another. I'm not saying that that's the case for everyone out there who has friends who belong to the same industry, not at all. There are those exceptions that are genuine relationships, and I have a few of those, but every time I hang out with them, we don't find the need to make content out of it. Sometimes when we meet, we're catching up, we're friends, we talk about things beyond the industry and about life, or about we have parents at home who are not always in the best of health. We talk about anything. I also want to say that on some level, there are days when I don't know how this is going to sound, but I also know that on some days I wake up and I'm like, you just got lucky. Do you even really there are those days where I ask myself, I'm like, do you really deserve to be here? Which is probably why I work twice as hard as so many others, probably because I'm constantly like, do I really have I just lucked out? Was my advantage that I started out 10 years earlier? If I started now, I don't think I would be where I am, because look at how competitive it is now. I've built my credibility, and there's this I didn't know there was something called imposter syndrome till a few years ago, and I was a very long time reading up on it. Maybe I should go back and try to understand it better, but I would always be like, what happened? What how did this happen? Even I'd like to understand how this happened, because on some days I'm like, I worked really hard for it, and of course God was with me and watching down upon me and smiling and being like, this is the one. But on some days I'm also like, babe, you just got lucky, calm down, and this luck can go anytime. So I don't know, I swing back and forth, but I don't, which is probably why nothing gets to my head. I don't take the negative comments to heart. I don't I say thank you to the positive comments, but I don't let it get to my head either. I don't know. It's just that, I guess.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. You are being modest. By no means has your journey been an easy one. I think it's easier to say, I wouldn't have been anyone had it been now for the competition, but I think you had to go through your own set of challenges, like we spoke of, right? The uncertainties, and so I think. But then the imposter syndrome comes up, and that's real as well. um, this is amazing to hear, Anam. Tell me, where does your interest in, and you've spoken about this on social media, around mental health, self-care, life, relationships, and the entire real girl everything tagline. Why is this important to you? If you could talk a little bit about that, and even your interest or your responsibility that you've taken upon to talk about topics that need attention. So where does this come from? Where's the inclination and motivation to do that?
So, real girl style or real girl everything is something that has actually been with me since I started 10 years ago. It's not new. It's, I don't know exactly, like, I wish I could point back to 10 years ago and say exactly where it came up from. But I remember my first couple of blog posts, I wore zero makeup. Like, there was nothing on my face. I think there was just thick kohl on my face because I was one of those thick kohl girls in college during a certain phase. Um, it I just growing up, I just felt like I didn't necessarily see tan women around me. You know what I mean? Like, I remember very, very, very clearly being a 6, 7 year old telling my mom I want to be a princess, and she said, "Hey, you can be a princess. You are my princess." And I said, "No, but princesses have long hair and they're fair and they're delicate and they're dainty." And sure I was delicate in that sense, but I was not dainty ever. Like, I was a girl in our school. I went to an all girls school. When there was a cockroach that flew into our classroom, it was me who would get up and take a paper and go. Like, I wasn't scared of things. And at one point, I remember this very clearly. I was almost like, oh, am I supposed to be scared of it? Because everyone else is. So I don't know. I just didn't see a lot of what I was around me. Um, I guess I just really wanted to fit in that sense. You know what I mean? And it was later, of course, in my late teens that I realized I'm actually really just being myself. And there are other people like me. It's just that they want to consistently fit into some sort of a mold. Um, and I realized that I actually don't fall into any mold because I am a diehard romantic, and I'm a feminist, but I'd love for my husband to open the door for me every once in a while. It doesn't have to be either extreme. You know what I mean? And I found it so
Yeah.
tough for people to want to do a black or a white, and I was like, I'm comfortable stepping into the gray. I'm comfortable being able to talk about leadership and my ambition and my goals, and I'm still okay with sitting back and crying if something affects me. I don't have to pick between.
Yeah.
I guess that whole real girl thing at that point just came from there, of course, apart from the fact that I mean, especially 10 years ago now, we're still starting to see some sort of a change. But 10 years ago, we didn't have any, forget plus size models. We didn't even have any like brownie brown women,
Yeah.
to see. And I'm talking about Indian magazines. I'm not even talking about the global standard. We're a country of different shades of brown, but we've been obsessed with fairness for so, so long.
Yeah.
I mean, can we get out of the thumb already? So I guess it just kind of came from there. I'm someone who's still like, I'm vlogging today, and um, you know, I'm okay with vlogging with no makeup on. I put my liner and my concealer on today here for this video. Otherwise, I would have been sitting like with nothing on. And I still have pajamas on down right now, and I show this when I'm filming my videos or
I've seen
vlogging
that.
and stuff like that
Yeah.
because it's honest. It's just the honest thing to do. I don't want to follow someone on social media who makes me feel like crap about my life, so now I don't want to be someone who you look at my life and you say, wow, she has a great life, she's worked hard for it. But I don't want someone to look at my profile and say, wow, she's got a great life, shit, I wish I could have it, but I can't. That's not my goal. The latter is just not my goal at all.
Yeah. And it's incredible that this clarity was there 10 years ago. I didn't know that this goes all the way back, the real girl everything. And to know that when you're 19 and to take it up as something, and to talk about it openly is another thing. It takes a lot of courage, I think, to do
do this at that age as well. So yeah, kudos to you for doing that. And tell me a little bit about the mental health, self-care interests, so to speak. Why have you thought about talking and bringing those topics up as a conversation?
So I had a few things that happened in my personal life that led me to go to therapy a few years ago. And I needed to seek professional help because I was driving myself nuts obsessing over things that I clearly should not have been obsessing over. And I started getting panic attacks, really, really, really bad panic attack, to a point where, the one that really threw me and my husband over the edge was when I had a panic attack at a restaurant inside the loo, and I found myself on the floor. And it, my husband was wondering why I was taking so long in the loo. And it was after that episode that I realized, you know what, I need help. I clearly have things to figure out, and understand why I'm getting these panic attacks. They were obviously linked to things that were happening in my life over the last couple of years from that. And I started seeking professional help. And I consistently did therapy around that time. I want to say for 6 months ish. It made a huge difference in my life. It's been on and off since, but I definitely want to get back to doing it more often, especially post this pandemic. But it made a huge, huge difference in my life. And if there was one key takeaway I had from that experience, it was that the things I was feeling, I was not alone in. It's just that as a society, we're always told to brush things under the rug, at least publicly. Um, and I don't understand why. I've never understood why. Because if you have a fever, you say you have a fever. So if you have a fever in the head where you're constantly feeling sick about something, why is it so weird to be like, I need help? Like, I had a lot of friends. I didn't tell too many people, again, because it's meant to be private. And then I guess I just came to a point where I was like, this doesn't need to be private, which is why you've probably seen Self Care Sunday on my series, where I've talked about the fact that I've gotten professional help from time to time. I don't know, it's just one of those things where I'm not a very secretive person by nature. I'm someone who, I like being an open book, and it's not just because of my job that everything is so out there. I've just always been a very out there person, which is
Yeah.
why my job happened very organically while I was, still in my teens, like we've established. um I don't know, I'm not one for, I can't do the whole shove it under the rug and don't talk about it in front of a third person. I will talk about my mental health, and I will talk about my bad period cramp, and I will happily talk about, I have friends who had miscarriages and abortions who want to talk about their experiences, and I will give them the platform to talk about it when they're, open to talking about it publicly. Um, I will talk about anything. And if it makes anybody uncomfortable, they are not my target audience, because we're all going through so many experiences that are shared. It's just so sad that we think we're the only people who are going through that. And I guess that led me to talk about mental health, or that led me to open up about um, my broken relationships, not just like romantically, but also with friends or with just people who I thought, were friends. And I don't know, it was just a combination of all of these things that I thought we need to shine light on and let people know that this happens with everyone.
So that's the thing, right? That's the real girl, I guess, real girl everything. As you are talking about fashion, beauty, lifestyle, travel, all of this is happening. We're human beings, we're going through the emotions, we're going through the ups and downs, breakups, professional challenges, mental health is it's all a part of it. And I think the effort to talk about everything, and to know, and for people to know as well, that it all comes together. It's not that, once you've succeeded, problems go away. It's just perhaps a different kind of a problem. And there's that constant work that's required, internal work, and, growing, evolving, and all of that. And I'm really, really appreciative of the fact that you do that, Aanam, at the place that you're in, because people are tuned in, they're engaged with you, and it's a powerful message to put out.
Thank you. Honestly, I don't even feel like I'm doing much. I'm literally only talking about my own experiences. On some
Yeah.
level, I also find that very vain. But I'm like, okay, if it's gonna me being honest about my life is gonna help someone in any way, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah. And
100%.
it usually is pretty vague. When we're going through it, to make sense of it, to articulate it is difficult, because it's all the emotions, the thoughts are muddled up in our head, but you're speaking as you're going through it, which takes courage. But yeah, thank you so much. I wanted to understand where your motivations come from, understand your journey a little bit with mental health, and of course look forward to talking a lot more with you, Anam. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. You're someone who I know that we'll yet to meet in person. But it's when every time I tune into one of those rooms, even if I'm just being a silent listener at the point, I always feel like there's so much depth and there's so much well put thought that you're kind of putting out there that I'm sure is helping a lot of people. And Clubhouse is definitely a medium that I think will work really beautifully, even more beautifully for someone like you who genuinely has great conversations with people. And I hope more people discover you through all your different social media platforms.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you, Anam. Great. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Honestly, I don't even feel like I'm doing much. I'm literally only talking about my own experiences. On some level, I also find that very vain. But I'm like, okay, if it's gonna me being honest about my life is gonna help someone in any way, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
100%.
And it usually is pretty vague. When we're going through it, to make sense of it, to articulate it is difficult, because it's all the emotions, the thoughts are muddled up in our head, but you're speaking as you're going through it, which takes courage. But yeah, thank you so much. I wanted to understand where your motivations come from, understand your journey a little bit with mental health, and of course look forward to talking a lot more with you, Anam. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. You're someone who I know that we'll yet to meet in person. But it's when every time I tune into one of those rooms, even if I'm just being a silent listener at the point, I always feel like there's so much depth and there's so much well put thought that you're kind of putting out there that I'm sure is helping a lot of people. And Clubhouse is definitely a medium that I think will work really beautifully, even more beautifully for someone like you who genuinely has great conversations with people. And I hope more people discover you through all your different social media platforms.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you, Anam. Great. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for thinking of me and for inviting me. I'm so happy to be able to do this.